Welcome to the Retro Video Store Podcast.
Welcome, everyone, to the Retro Video Store Podcast. I'm your host, Eric.
Hi, Eric.
And that's my co-host, Neil.
And since we are recording on Mother's Day, we thought we may have a single mother of five with us to help record today.
Is that when I'm supposed to come in?
Yes.
Oh.
David.
Single mother of five.
Did you put the kids all to bed and now you're ready to record?
I see what you're saying, Neil.
You sent the oldest one down to get you some cigarettes from the corner store. Now you're ready.
So
that's right.
Yes, David is here.
David Dump Truck is here, okay?
David Dump Truck. So, yes, David is here, and this is 2 episodes in a row, so that's good. Nice to have you back on the show. Today, we are pulling a switcheroo. We were supposed to talk about The Last American Virgin, but oddly enough, you can't find that movie anywhere that's streaming. You can buy it on all sorts of different formats on Blu-ray and different editions and all this kind of stuff like that, but it's not streaming right now, which is kind of odd. So we decided to execute a plan B and decided to do Heathers from 1988, which is a very famous high school movie and is a interesting one and a fun one to watch. So we decided to do that. So we're talking about Heathers from 1988/1989. But before we do that, let's do what we always do. Neil, what did you watch this week?
Only really watched one movie. I watched the American Society of Magical Negroes.
I've heard the name, but I have not seen it.
It's funny. And it's, there's a deeper story to it as well, but like the whole premise is hilarious. David Allen Greer is awesome in it. There is a kid in it who I've seen in other movies, but I cannot remember his name. And I'm not going to try to remember right now. It's really good. It is very good. I enjoyed the hell out of it. And then, of course, my wife decided, since it's Mother's Day today, she went and bought early on Prime the Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare. And so I'm recording and I'm giving her some alone time with Henry Cavill and the dude who plays Jack Reacher.
Oh, okay.
So,
all right.
That's what I watched. David, other than running 5 miles for some fucked up reason, which you're telling us earlier, what did you watch?
I haven't watched anything this week. Eric, what did you watch?
Wow. Thrown it to me already. I watched...
it's a good thing we don't do a podcast about movies. That's nice.
I watched quite a bit of like half bits of movies this week, but I did watch one entire shitty movie yesterday. I was in the mood for a satanic 80s horror movie.
Yes,
so I watched I watched a movie called Evil Speak, and it is about Clint Howard, Ron Howard's brother, the unfortunate looking Clint Howard, but he's made a career of it. So good old Clint Howard. Clint Howard wasn't Chaka.
He looks like Chaka.
He looks like Chaka, but yes, I don't think he was Chaka. But anyway, so he plays a schlubby orphan who's in a military academy, and he is bullied relentlessly, and he decides to commune with the devil through his old school computer. I guess it wasn't old school then. It's very old school now, but it's like an Apple IIe or something. And he finds ancient texts while he's cleaning out the basement of this church, and he decides to perform a black mass and bring about this demon killed evil priest, and he wreaks vengeance upon all the people who did him wrong. And the funny thing about it is you really root for him, and you want all the people that he kills to die, and they die in very spectacular fashions. There's some very bloody decapitations and people getting eaten by boars and stuff like that. But it is boring as hell for like the first hour. It takes forever for the actual good stuff to happen, but it's worth watching as a relic of what people thought you could do with a computer in the 80s. I'm going to just start typing these ancient Latin script into the computer with no program or anything like that. I'm just going to type it into the computer, and then the computer will tell me what I need to do to perform a black mass and summon a demon and summon the devil. And it's fun if you're in the right mood. It kind of tested my patience, but at the end it paid off with lots of really good decapitations and blood and stuff. There was nudity for some reason, but it was more sad.
Oh, please tell me it wasn't Clint Howard.
Come on.
No, Clint Howard, I think you do see him in the shower one time. I don't know if you see his butt or not, but there's a lot of weird male nudity in the shower at the beginning, but also very exploitative female nudity of the sad variety. More sad boobies in this movie. So just like in Prom Night.
What was it again?
You said
we've lost David. He's done. He can't speak anymore.
You said something like avocados in his sock or something.
Christ. When you said something about Clint Howard, I was like, God, like I hope it's not Clint Howard. And I just imagine like 14 inches just falling in a bowl of mashed potatoes. Blam! Movement. Who's the unfortunate one now, motherfuckers?
But it was actually a fun movie to watch if you have not seen Evil Speak and you're in the mood for a nice throwback satanic 80s movie. It's worth watching. This one called
Eric, stop. David and I need to talk. David, I love the way that Eric tried to steal your joy. You see that? You're talking about Clint Howard having an enormous hog and how great that would be. And Eric's like, nope, I'm done. We're talking about movies now.
Yeah, I didn't want to picture Clint Howard's hog. So I kind of try to repress that memory and move on to the next topic.
It's in there now because I'm going to find some on the internet and it's going into the show notes.
So there is another kind of same themed satanic 80s movie that I'm looking for. It's called Fear No Evil, which I haven't been able to find.
Yep.
And I remember that one was kind of an odd one. But The Last American Virgin, which we did not get to see, I'd highly recommend if you have a chance to see it. If you have not seen it, it is insane. It is an insane movie where it's like the first 3/4 of the movie are like this Porky's level sex comedy where the guys are like having sex with hookers and getting crabs, and then everybody in the gym locker room decides to measure each other's penises, and it's just really weird. Like, what the hell's going on in this movie? But the last 30 minutes is devastating because our main actor, the main character, protagonist, falls in love with this girl, and she gets pregnant by his best friend, and then he does all this stuff. He's major, he goes out of his way trying to be the nicest guy possible, gets her an abortion and is there for and all this kind of stuff like that. And at the end of the movie, she dumps him for the guy that got her pregnant, and then he drives off sadly into the distance, and then the credits roll. You're like, what the hell is this movie? It's like this devastatingly sad movie packed in a really awful sex comedy. So Last American Virgin, if you haven't seen it, you got to check it out. It's just very tonally weird. Have you seen it, Neil? You probably have. You've kind of had to have seen that one.
Ages ago. I don't even remember what it's about. I know I've seen it. I couldn't tell you. I probably saw it when it first came out. That was the last time I saw it. But I mean, I feel like with your summation, I don't even need to see it again at this point. I'm ready to do a podcast on it right now.
I'm trying to sell it, got to watch it if it comes on. Yeah. But before we talk about Heathers, tangentially related, Heathers was released on home video by New World Pictures. And New World Pictures was founded by Roger Corman, who sadly passed away this week. Ugh, thanks for that picture of Clint Howard in a red Speedo. I knew you wouldn't disappoint us. That's a hairy son of a bitch. There's like tomato juice on him or something. Ugh. Thanks.
You're welcome.
All right.
Would you like to give those skills you had with describing the film to this? It's a purely
with a bald, mulleted-looking, goateed Clint Howard in a red Speedo is holding 2 cans of what looks like tomato juice. He must have got skunked. And then Neil focused in on the red Speedo. So thank you, Neil.
You're welcome.
Mm-hmm. But back to me eulogizing poor Roger Corman. Roger Corman is responsible for so many movies that we love, either as a director or a producer or just being distributed by New World Pictures. He has done so much stuff. He was 98 years old when he died, so he had a hell of a long run. But if you read his filmography, it's just insane. Especially in the 50s, he did some westerns, but then he did It Conquer the World, Not of This Earth, Attack of the Crab Monsters, The Undead, Teenage Doll, Carnival Rock, Sorority Girl, The Saga of the Viking Women, and Their Voyage to the Waters of the Great Sea Serpent. Did Bucket of Blood,
it just rolls off the tongue, that one.
The original Little Shop of Horrors. Then in the 60s, he switched gears and did 8 Edgar Allan Poe themed movies. So he did The Pit and the Pendulum, Premature Burial, The Tower of London, The Raven, Mask of the Red Death, Tomb of Lygia. So he did a bunch of stuff that was like these really amazing Technicolor Edgar Allan Poe adaptations. Then in the 60s, he was responsible for the biker boom of all these biker movies, and he did the movie The Trip with Jack Nicholson, which is basically a long LSD trip on film. So, yeah. Bloody Mama, Frankenstein Unbound. Well, he directed Frankenstein Unbound. But yeah, he's responsible for so many people and so many movies, and so many people got their career started with Roger Corman, James Cameron, Francis Ford Coppola, Jonathan Demme, Jack Nicholson, Joe Dante, Ron Howard. All these people were students of the Roger Corman Film School. And yeah, just rest in peace, Roger Corman. You were responsible for some amazing movies. And going back to New World Pictures, they put out a bunch of stuff. And he actually even worked with Sci-Fi and did a couple of sci-fi movies. Dino Croc, Super Gator, Attack of the 50-Foot Cheerleader. All that kind of the kind of movies that we enjoy. He's responsible for a lot of them. So 98 years.
It's a damn good run.
Yes. Damn good run. David, do you remember any of these shitty movies?
Oh yeah. I was just looking up his thing on IMDb. Yeah, I remember a bunch of them.
Death Race 2000, Rock and Roll High School, Piranha, Galaxy of Terror.
There's Piranaconda.
Slumber Party Massacre 2, Munchies. Munchie. He even did if you really look this up, he had the rights to the Fantastic Four, and he made a Fantastic Four movie in 1994, or produced one, and it looks awful. If you ever look at any of those stills from the movie.
The stills are amazing.
Yeah. The Thing looks kind of cool, but everything else looks really, really bad. But he just kind of rushed it out just to keep the rights to it. And it was never really released, but you can find it now, like on, on the seamier parts of the web where you can pirate things. So, Roger Corman, rest in peace. But let's get back to the matter at hand. Heathers, thanks for keeping inserting. I noticed you were working while I was rambling on about Roger Corman. That you were just keeping inserting Clint Howard's wiener into our notes here. So. Do you want to hit us with a new Internet Movie Database about Heathers?
At Westerberg High, where cliques rule, jocks dominate, and all the popular girls are named Heather, it's going to take Veronica and a mysterious new kid to give teen angst a body count.
Mm-hmm. All right, well, let's get our first impressions again. Neil, what did you think about watching it this time?
So this was a movie when it came out that I avoided.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you were the first person that mentioned it to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you were the reason why I decided to actually watch this on video. And I remember disliking it when I first watched it. And when I watched it this time, there was tons of nostalgia, but I also disliked it. There it is.
Oh, really? I still like it. I think it holds up in a sense. It is dated. I don't think the ending is very good. It kind of meanders at the end of the movie, but I still think it's fun.
Well, it's a lot of nostalgia, but as far as it's not something that's I would see come up on the list and go, oh guys, let's watch this. Let's watch Heathers. And then everybody I know would never come back to the house. They would never want to come over again. And then I'd have to start a podcast to rage about the movies that I like. Oh, wait, hold on. Look, if you don't perk up, I got a million more copies of Clint Howard's to slap all the way through these show notes.
David, what did you think of it?
I've always liked this movie. Yeah. I've always enjoyed it. It's about a bunch of killer one-liners, and it's entertaining as fuck.
Oh, fuck me with a chainsaw.
Yeah. I was looking at it earlier. There's so many quotes in the trivia. This is just a fun movie.
I think what I really liked about it and still like about it is that it's completely different than your John Hughes type movie.
No monocles in a John Hughes movie.
No monocles. It's a little bit. If you watch it now as an adult, it's a little bit up its own ass in a way because it thinks it's very clever.
It insists upon itself.
Yes. Thank you for coming up with a better term. It insists upon itself in a way, but as a teenager, I thought this was the greatest movie ever because it shit on all the popular like 80s kind of movies. It was the opposite of like Ferris Bueller or The Breakfast Club or 16 Candles, all those kind of movies that were so popular.
It had Winona Ryder in it, and that was a plus for you, I would imagine.
Oh, definitely. Winona Ryder was definitely a huge crush of mine back in the day in this movie, and with Edward Scissorhands, Beetlejuice even, just got that goth girl energy in Beetlejuice, so that I enjoy.
I take great umbrage to her handwriting.
What's wrong with her handwriting?
Did her handwriting scenes not bother you? She had this giant ass notebook and she looked like she was writing on a Big Chief tablet. The letters were all like that big on the paper. I don't know, man. Something about little things like this annoy me. It just makes me want to reach out.
I did think about that one time when I watched it because I'm like, man, she must go through like 50 notebooks a year with that gigantic scrawl in her in her diary. Yeah.
It sure is no one to reach a diary. So you're like, dear, turn the page. Diary. Today, turn page. I wrote shit. Turn the page.
So it's directed by Michael Lehman, who has done a few movies, nothing too major. This was he did Meet the Applegates, which is a weird 1990 movie with where people are bugs. Hudson Hawk, one of the biggest debacles of filmdom back in 1991, terrible movie. Did Airheads with with Adam Sandler and Steve Buscemi and Brendan Fraser, which is actually pretty funny. It's got some funny parts in it.
I got a quick question for you about that movie.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Who's a better bass player, Lemmy or God?
Lemmy is God.
That was a trick question. That's right.
See, then he did the Truth About Cats and Dogs, Uma Thurman and Janine Garofalo, My Giant with Billy Crystal and George Mirasan, 40 Days and 40 Nights, Because I Said So, which is it's like Diane Keaton and Mandy Moore. Jesus. And then a movie called Flakes in 2007, and that's about it. Wow. Not a stellar filmography. Daniel Waters was considered a hot property after this movie as far as a screenwriter, but he wrote The Adventures of Ford Fairlane after this movie with Andrew Dice Clay.
We just wanted to be held, but you got the bonus plan. Oy! What a horrible film that was.
Yeah.
The car was cool.
He did Hudson Hawk, Batman Returns, Demolition Man, a movie called Happy Campers, Sex and Death 101, and Vampire Academy in 2014. So, yeah.
I want to do the rest of this podcast either doing my Christian Slater impression or my Andrew Dice Clay, and I'm just
let's go with Christian Slater since it's more movie appropriate.
I like watching a young Jack Nicholson in a film.
Yeah, he said that he was influenced by Jack Nicholson, but to me, it's a straight up impression of Jack Nicholson.
Greetings and salutations. I've got seats to the Lakers. Would you like to come by and maybe watch some with me?
He was released on March. Oh, sorry, Dave. Go ahead.
So I read that he wrote Jack Nicholson a letter to ask him to watch the show, and he never got a response.
Jack probably has better things to do.
Jack was probably too busy drinking, getting gacked out on coke, and doing things with models. I betcha.
Yeah, especially in '89. This is prime. He's super rich from that Joker money with Tim Burton, so he's sitting at Laker games with models and stuff like that. He's got some other things to do than to watch Christian Slater perform in this movie. The movie had a $3 million budget, only made $1.1 million at the box office, but was huge on home video. They just had like a 30th anniversary special Blu-ray came out a couple years ago for its 30th anniversary, which makes me feel old that the movie is 30 years old. But
I got up off the couch to come do this. That made me feel old. The noises my body made did that for me.
Yeah.
You want to hit us with the critical consensus, Neil?
Writing in April 1989 for the Washington fucking Post. Can you believe this? Of all periodicals. Desson Thomas wrote that it may be the nastiest, cruelest fun you can have without actually having to study law or gird leather products. If movies were food, Heathers would be a cynic's chocolate binge. Chicago's Sun-Times film critic Roger Ebert gave the film 2.5 out of 4 and wrote that Heathers is a morbid comedy about peer pressure in high school, about teenage suicide, and about the deadliness of cliques that not only excludes, but also maim and kill. While conceding its ability to provoke thought and shock, Ebert questions how the mixed sensibility as a dark murder comedy and cynical morality play led to difficulty in understanding its point of view, while remarking that adulthood could be defined as the process of learning to be shocked by things that do not shock teenagers, but that is not a notion that has occurred to Lehman. In retrospect, you look like you have something to say.
No, I just think when I read Roger Ebert's review sometimes, he's so prudish, or I think that they miss the mark on what exactly the movie's trying to say. It's just, it's so cynical. We're like, well, it's trying to... it's just kind of like, well, the school is reflecting society and all this, I don't know. They just missed the whole point of the movie.
It's the school's reflecting society, and it sets off a psychopath that got fucked up by his dad. Ta-da.
Yeah. And this basically says, reality sucks, and here you go.
All right. Yeah. Rotten Tomatoes was much kinder to it than that. It has an approval rating of 93%. The contemporary retrospective reviews from 56 critics and an average rating of 7.8 of 10. The site's critical consensus reads, dark, cynical, and subversive. Heathers gently applies a chainsaw to the... Oh, fucking clever. I didn't read this part. It gently applies a chainsaw to the conventions of the high school movie. I get the reference. Someone watched the movie. Changing the game for teen comedies to follow. On Metacritic, you got a weighted average score of 72 out of 100 based on 20 reviews by mainstream critics. Academics have likened Heathers to other films popular during the 1980s and early 1990s, which characterized domestic youth narratives as part and parcel of the culture war. Waters created a specific set of slang and style of speech for the film, wanting to ensure that the language in the film would have a timeless quality. Slang is a timeless thing. And instead of just reflecting teen slang at the time, the film is among the most cited in the Oxford English Dictionary.
All right. I remember renting this movie for the first time from Bronco Video I had heard, read something on it, like I think in Premiere Magazine or some magazine that what dark humor it was, and it was about teen suicide and stuff. So I rented it and watched it, and really, really liked it. And my mom watched it with me, and she hated it. She just thought it was just. She just thought that teen suicide was nothing to joke about, and it was just, how could they joke about this in the movie, and how could that be made a send up of it? She just was not happy that I enjoyed this movie. And usually my mom wasn't as, I don't know, I kind of surprised that she hated it so much, because she likes funny movies, and I thought it was funny, but she was just in a moral uproar about this movie when I watched it.
I would have loved to have been in there to see Frances just go ham on you after watching this, to hear what she had to say, because she had a very specific way of going after things. Didn't your sister really like this movie too?
Mm-hmm.
I remember her talking about it as well.
Yeah, this is one of those home video finds that we watched. Loved it. I've probably watched this movie, over a dozen times through the last, 30 years. And I think maybe 5 or 10 years ago when I watched it again, I started to be annoyed by it a little bit, just because of the of how clever the writer thought he was in retrospect. But when I was a teenager, it just spoke to me like, yeah, this is bullshit, man. I felt it appealed to me like no other movie had appealed to me at that time. I just thought it was like the greatest teen movie in the history of teen movies.
He insisted upon himself.
He did, but it's still enjoyable to me. David, when did you first watch it?
I think I probably watched this. You brought it over on video one time, and you had to show Jamie, or you had already probably shown Jamie, but insisted. You were going through that phase. You had to show Daryl and I'm sure, as we were about to enter high school.
Yeah, I loved it. One of my favorite things was to like influence you and your brother with movies.
Way to go, Eric.
And even like adult pictures, like, hey, kids, have you seen this? But you were adults by then, so I wasn't like, giving it to minors.
Yep.
Remember Brianna Loves Jenna? That was a classic.
Yeah, you used to bring us some good VHSs, and you're like, don't show these to your dad. We're like, got it. Or don't let your sister know you're borrowing my movies or whatever.
For God's sakes, rewind, because we don't want to know where the two of you end.
Let's talk about the cast. We have Winona Ryder as Veronica Sawyer. Christian Slater is Jason J.D. Dean. Shannon Doherty is Heather Duke. Lizanne Falk is Heather McNamara. And Kim Walker is Heather Chandler. And of course, who was Glenn Shaddix was Father Ripper. His name is Jesus. He's in the book. No. I guess Glenn Shaddix and Winona Ryder had just made Beetlejuice together, like just a few, like several months before they started filming Heathers. It's kind of interesting. They're both two movies in a row together. He was Otho in Beetlejuice.
I really hope Otho's in the next movie. In the new one, I really want to see Otho back.
Oh, yeah, the new Beetlejuice, yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder if he's still kicking around. Let's see. Glenn Shaddix. He died in 2010, so he will not be in the...
What a bummer.
September 7th of 2010 at 58 years old.
Oh, don't say that. That's depressing to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so bummer. So speaking of insisting upon itself, the writer thought that he could get Stanley Kubrick to direct this movie and that he could make it 3 hours long. And he was mistaken about that. And says he started writing it in 1986 when he was working at a video store, and then he sold the spec script. And he wrote the spec script thinking that Stanley Kubrick would be interested in making that movie. And what did Stanley Kubrick directed right before this was Full Metal Jacket. So I don't think Kubrick would have had any time for that. or would be interested in doing that in the first place. So
I'd put these films right up against each other. I think as far as, Full Metal Jacket, the writing style of that.
I think that going
What
back
should
to
you be doing to yourself, Private Pile? Fucking myself with a chainsaw, sir.
I think the movie is fun still, and I do like some of the darker humor. Oh, I just now thought of something that I had not thought of in forever. That, and this is may or may not go in the podcast, but like right after seeing this movie, somebody in the school or somebody adjacent to our school did commit suicide, and my mom mentioned this movie. See these movies. These movies, yeah.
If you're busy cleaning house, you won't have time to kill yourself.
Exactly. You're not thinking about killing yourself if you're sweeping the floor and mopping and yeah. I do like the color schemes in the movie. The yellow, red, and green for each of the Heathers. It starts out in a weird way with their playing croquet and then hit Winona Ryder on the head, and you're wondering what the hell's going on in this movie. And she, of course, talks about her diary. And, Winona Ryder, she was appealing in this movie to a 15-year-old Eric. No, 16, because I didn't see it until 89, so it probably was until 16 I saw this movie. Matthew Sweet wrote a song on his first album called Winona about her, and it sounds very stalkerish if you ever hear that song.
Matthew Sweet doesn't really come up in my playlist very often.
Oh, I enjoyed Matthew Sweet. First album, Girlfriend, is really good, or second album, Girlfriend, is pretty good.
It's way down at the back of the list. It's got some Morrissey down there and some Cure and whatever the hell that weird band is where the dude paints himself like a skull and dresses up like the Pope, and you'd hope it would actually you'd hope that the music would really kind of just rip, but then you listen to it and you're like, no, it doesn't. But okay.
David, you're very quiet. What do you think about it? What do you think is going on?
I'm just looking stuff up as you guys are talking, just about different movies on Internet Movie Database. Just doing some research while you two morons ramble on.
Well, what are you reading about? What are you
I was just going down. I was reading some of the quotes. Let me get back, and there was some trivia. I was trying to find a way I could insert myself into this podcast. But it says, well, fuck me gently with the chainsaw. Do I look like Mother Teresa? I was just reading some of that. I was reading about just following up. You guys are talking a lot here. I'm just trying to keep up with all the random names and stuff I haven't heard.
Well, I looked you up on AI about the podcast. Yes, you.
Oh, yeah. Read that back on that. It's hilarious. Let's take a digression here.
Okay.
How do you do that?
So, each host brings their unique personality and humor to the show. However, here's a brief rundown of the hosts. Eric is known for his witty one-liners, sarcastic humor, and encyclopedic knowledge of retro movies. Neil brings a more laid-back, dry humor and a passion for obscure and cult classic films. I would just think an obsession with, maybe Children of the Corn and a few of those others. David, and it puts you in parentheses, occasional host, adds a fresh perspective and a wealth of knowledge about specific genres of topics. Some fans might enjoy Eric's quick wit and sharp humor, while others might appreciate Neil's more relaxed and deadpan delivery. David's occasional appearances bring a new dynamic to the show. Ultimately, the best host is a matter of personal preference.
So he basically asked AI, was it ChatGPT?
Yeah.
To tell him about the Retro Video Store. Who was the best host of the Retro Video Store?
How the fuck does that even work? I'm blown away right now. I don't even know how AI works. I don't even know what's going on right now. I'm old school and typing into it, doing research.
Well, here's what happened when Skynet became sentient. What it started doing was listening to our podcast to find out the best way to take us over. And they found out nukes weren't the way to go. It was just to have us sit around and watch movies and not do anything with ourselves until we all just sort of fade away.
That amused me that ChatGPT actually had an opinion about our podcast. So or was able to formulate an opinion based on input about the show.
Does that mean we have 5 listeners now of ChatGPT? Is that how that works? We have
son
5?
of a bitch. We have a new listener. The computers are listening. Thank you, Siri.
You're going to get texts from Siri. Siri's going to start talking to David. This is your girlfriend, David. Why don't you interject yourself more on the podcast? You're very quiet.
Would you like to play a game of chess? Let's play global thermonuclear war.
I'm listening. I'm enjoying this podcast. I was just doing some research. I enjoyed the movie. You guys are talking about it and really dissecting it, and I just enjoyed it. Mm-hmm. And you're talking about how the writer was all full of himself or whatever, and all this other bullshit that you guys talk about. I just thought it was a funny movie. I haven't seen it in, probably since the mid '90s, Eric. I probably watched it 2 or 3 times on VHS, and I haven't seen it since.
So let's go back to our high school days. Were there that many cliques in our high school? I think there was like jocks. There was, jockey people.
Yeah.
And then there were
everybody else. There was
the Mormons.
Who are usually the jocks?
Jocks and the Mormons kind of mesh together.
Yeah.
There were there were sort of, there was some drama people.
Mm-hmm.
Yearbook people.
Nerds.
I don't know what I think. I don't know what I think about the look on your face right now. It's like I'm expecting so much more. There's like
I'm wanting you to fill in the gaps.
Okay.
I think our high school was.
I will sum up the rest of them. Dickheads. Our school was rife with them.
That is true, but going to a rural school, there was like the FFA people, the Future Farmers of America,
the volunteer firefighter guys,
the
guys that were always walking around, that always had on like roper boots. Their jeans were way too tight, and they all had a knife on their hip in a little leather holder.
Yes.
All wanting to hang out because apparently Mr. Haney, our chemistry teacher, was the coolest human on the planet. Although he did do some gangster stuff in class. When had him for chemistry, did he do the thing where he pops his eye out and stuck it in the glass?
Yes, he did pop his eye out in class. Yes.
I got suspended when he did that.
Why? What did you do?
So I was in the front and I just went, fuck yeah. It was so cool. I was like, let's pop it out, dude. Let's go. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, we went to school with a bunch of dicks.
Yeah. And we just don't really have that much variety as far as like, there weren't like rich kids or anything like that. We were all kind of like just
poor.
Yeah, we're a bunch of hayseeds in Kirtland, New Mexico.
I spent majority of my high school career looking forward to the weekend so I could watch movies and sneak out into the hills and drink beer and hopefully drag you out with me after we watched movies.
Yeah. There was not much to do in our area. How about you, David? How about cliques in your high school?
No, there were all the cliques. It was a big school. I think that, trying to remember, I think there were like probably 1,600 students in that school or some shit like that. So there were cliques all over the place.
It's huge now, man. My brother-in-law lives right near there. It's gigantic.
Yeah. So every clique you could think of was there. But I do have a funny story about the main jock guy, the main quarterback guy for the school. He was making fun of there was a special or somebody that had some issues, or not issues, just shortcomings. And he was making fun of him, and this individual lowered his head and ran full speed into the guy's door of his car, dented it, and then stood up and ran off like in front of everybody. So the jock was picking on this person that had this mental whatever shortcoming, and I just ran right into this door. Boom!
Bobby Boucher himself.
Yeah. Listen, and of all the cars he hit the jock's car because the staff let the starting quarterback park with the staff, and so we come out of some stupid pep rally, and he bam, dents the guy's door, and he just takes off running, and everyone's like, "Oh shit!" It was just like I'll always remember that day.
How many stitches did you get, David?
Huh?
I said, how many stitches did you get?
Son of a bitch. I didn't want to make that joke. I'm so glad you did. Yes.
This is the last time I share anything with you guys.
I think that everything up to this point was a setup for that right there. The whole everything he read was all a setup for that. You've had that shitting look on your face the whole time we've been talking, and I was finally glad you let it out.
That's what I get for talking about Ron or whatever Howard's 14-inch dong and mashed potatoes. But yeah, I got 7 stitches.
Okay. Your dad was mad he had to pay for somebody's door. God damn it.
Yeah. You did what?
So my favorite quote is, real life sucks losers dry. If you want to fuck with the Eagles, you got to learn to fly. I always thought that was kind of funny. And there are tons. What are more quotes, David, you were looking up? I know there are tons. I thought it was funny that this was in Sherwood, Ohio. So they weren't really in like LA, New York kind of cool place. They were just in the middle, the Midwest.
Fucking Ohio?
I know. Get your jocks.
There was a good one. Did you eat a brain tumor for breakfast? That was good.
So yeah, you got your characters. You got Veronica's Winona Ryder. You got Kurt and Ram, your typical jocks. Betty Finn, her older ex-friend. Jason Dean, of course. JD. Can you do your greetings and salutations deal?
Greetings and salutations. Chaos is what killed the dinosaurs, darling.
So this part would not fly nowadays, of course, when he pulls out a gun and shoots blanks at the two jocks at the beginning of the movie. Yeah, he would get arrested for that now. Not suspended.
Yeah,
there's a lot in this movie that wouldn't fly nowadays.
Yes, there's some language in there that's
yeah, there's a lot that has changed.
One or two.
But I mean, we were so casual with the slurs against, especially against homosexual people. That's just our mentality back in the day. Thank God we're more conscious and more evolved. But back in the day, that was like the worst thing you could tell. Like say to another guy. That was just an insult you threw around just to throw around. And now we're a lot more sensitive to that, thankfully. That's a positive thing. But back in the day, yeah, you threw that around quite a bit. There was some shit that people would get away with in school that would get them arrested now. I remember did somebody let off a smoke bomb in school one year?
Yeah.
At our school?
We had somebody put up ours.
Neil, are you the guilty? You say you may have secondhand knowledge or firsthand knowledge of who?
Of several explosive devices that were in the bathroom over the course of my years at Kirtland Central High School. I know and have first and secondhand knowledge of parties that did such things.
Yes. And I. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And
I remember
you may know those parties.
I'm pretty sure I do. I remember somebody left a carton of milk in their locker for an entire semester. He was pointing at himself.
I did that. No, what I did, I had a Casio databank watch, and I would wait behind people, and I would get their locker codes, and then I would get all the extra ones, and I left because I would hang up like stakes when they would bring the drug dog in, so it would hit on the lockers, and then I looked up what kind of teas would key these guys off, and then left the milk in there, and then the dude they gave the locker to opened it up. He goes, "What the fuck is this?" He tipped it. It just boom. It came down. It was beautiful. I enjoyed it. I loved high school so much. I didn't fuck around at all.
It stunk up the hallway and left a stain on the carpet that is probably still there.
Yeah, because it was in the middle hallway, because there's the two ones that was in that middle one. Yeah, no, I remember that distinctly. I'll take credit for that one. That one was me. Mm-hmm. You make me sound like a horrible person these last couple episodes. Hitting people with cars and being nothing but a delinquent. Let's talk about David. David smoked weed. There we go.
Did minor damage with his head to cars.
Oh, goddamn. I snorted right on. Oh, it was so good. Minor damage. That was a big ass dent. I know what you're talking about.
Sorry, David, for being such a dick this episode.
I'm better now. I'm better. Better now. Let's go.
Oh, one other part that drove my mom crazy is when Veronica's talking to her dad and he's like, why do I read these spy novels? And she's like, because you're an idiot. And she's like, who would talk to their parent that way? She just thought that was just the worst thing you could say to your parent. Did not pick up any sarcasm between father and daughter in that moment either. But yeah. Of course, there's the party at Remington University where obviously Veronica is roofied or drugged or something like that and causes her to puke. I thought it was kind of saucy that Veronica was so eagerly following the sack with JD. But then I was 16. I was like nowhere near having any of that kind of experience.
You don't know the power of strip croquet.
Yeah, I do not. Can you imagine playing croquet out in the weeds where we lived?
Out in the goddamn desert with like sagebrush and cactus and shit. Mm-hmm. That'd be horrible. But you know, what was the movie? He always had played these like outlier characters that were just like quirky and did things that nobody else did, but that he made seem cool. Like Pump Up the
Volume when he was like the pirate radio guy.
Yeah.
I hated that fucking movie. I hated that movie.
I got my blackjack gum. And everyone's like, oh, we got to get a hold of some blackjack gum. You ever tried blackjack gum?
Yeah, it tastes like shit.
Tastes like ass.
Yeah.
So we now know that Christian Slater's character ate ass.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So terrible stuff.
Now we got Dave excited again.
Now we said it's like something I can talk about.
I don't know shit about this movie, but now I have things I can relate to.
Yeah.
I do like when the Heather Chandler drinks the Drano. She's like, corn nuts, and she falls through the table. That was I
had to stop and rewind because I didn't have the captions on. I was like, I swear to God, she said corn nuts when she died. So she did. She said corn nuts when she died.
Yeah, because she had Veronica pick her up some corn nuts at the convenience store. I haven't had corn nuts in years, man. I can't even.
Really?
Yeah.
Dude, that's
awful.
No, man. Come on.
What the fuck? They're
corn nuts? No, that's road trip food.
No, it isn't.
That is road trip food. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And then the crappy hot dogs that are rolling on the hot steel tubes. You grab one of those at a truck stop. But it's got to be a truck stop where they have showers for the truckers. I'm sure you're aware of all those are in Utah, Dave.
Speaking of that, that one part always cracks me up, and he's like, "I love my dad, but my dad gay son."
Because of the water.
Yeah, the mineral water.
Yeah, the mineral water.
Oh my God!
Because of this, he's like, "Oh God."
Quarterback bugger in the lineman or whatever he said. Yeah, that was. But that part when she's laughing at the funeral and she sees the little girl crying, or the sister of one of the guys, and then the guilt that she felt was actually kind of, I think that was good for the movie because it kind of, I don't know, it kind of still gave Veronica a sense of morals, even though she just shot some guy in the chest.
After he chased that hill in that, they went up that hill and then down that hill and then up that hill again. And then they fled the scene. They had to come back down that damn hill. Mm-hmm. That they got quite a workout. And I'd say for a smoker who doesn't look like he exercises very much, JD had really good cardio.
Good cardio. Yeah.
He's keeping up with a high school jock, somebody who's probably working out constantly and running a lot. I want you to slow down. I'm on. I'm on 5 Marlboros and a half a pint of Jack Daniels. There's no way I can keep up with you now.
Had 5 unfiltered Camels this morning. Remember unfiltered cigarettes? You could buy those.
Holy
I
shit.
did like all their thoughts in front of the casket. And he's like, "Why'd you have to kill such hot snatch?"
Kidding.
Can you really tip a cow? I remember, I think on Mythbusters they said that you can't, but it seems like it's plausible to go cow tipping.
That exact same question came up at my house. No, my lovely and talented bride came through and was like, "Can you actually do that?" And I'm just kind of sitting there watching the movie. And she's poking me like, "Can you actually do that?" I'm like, "Why are you looking at me like I should have expertise in this?" And then she just kind of shrugged her shoulders and pointed back at me. And I'm like, "Oh, okay, well, that makes sense. You'd think that I would know that, but I don't."
We are from Kirtland in Farmington, New Mexico.
Is there sheep tipping? Because we had a lot more of those. We did cows.
Yeah. Well, Veronica gets a change of heart and she starts to kind of change, wants not to continue the killing. JD got super aggressive with her, which it seems like wouldn't fly today in a movie. Oh, and I felt so bad for, what's her name? The Heather McNamara on their double date with Kurt and Ram. It's just so casually that she's getting like date raped in the background while Veronica's just trying to get away. They never really expound any further on how that goes or anything with Heather. That it just it was highly disturbing and just such a toss away for the film. Yeah, I felt really bad even back in the when I was a 16-year-old. I was like, Jesus, what's going on? And then she feels bad. When Heather McNamara, the cheerleader Heather, tries to kill herself by taking pills, and she's like, the last person I had sex with killed himself. But like, yeah, I felt bad for her, but they never really kind of expounded on the realities of that. There was a Heather's TV show which bombed really, really badly. It came out like 3 years ago, and the whole premise is completely like where the people that are the Heathers are like, I'm going to walk a tightrope here, are like this group of people that you would think would be bullied in any other movie, but they're the people who rule the school. They're like the LGBTQ ethnic kids and stuff, and it seems so weird that the people being bullied in the school were the straight white kids. And this is just by me watching the previews of it and stuff like that. I'd never watched an episode, so I can't really expound on that, but it seemed weird that was the premise of the show, where historically, or just the power structures of school and stuff like that don't seem to be that way. I don't know. It's been a long time since I've been in high school, so I have no clue. So maybe I'm talking out of my ass, but it just seemed odd to me that was the premise of the show, and it bombed really quick, and it's almost like a forgotten thing. It was like on the Paramount Network or something, or a Paramount Plus or something. But yeah, it just seemed really odd.
Yeah, I'm looking it up right now. It was on Paramount.
Yeah.
The series was originally developed for TV Land, but it was moved to 2018 launch slate for its rebranded sister network, with the premiere moved back to March 2018 in the wake of the Stoneman Douglas High School shootings and the subject matter. So, yeah, bad show and even worse timing.
Yeah, big time worse timing. And that's another thing, when the whole plan to blow up the school and that kind of stuff still can't be done. I don't think can be even broached nowadays without causing a firestorm of criticism. So I think that when this was made back in 1988, it was much less of a reality that something like that would happen. But now things have changed so much that it's almost too common, or very too common that something would happen like that. So that is probably what hasn't aged very well about the movie, but I still like it. I feel. Did you going back to the movie a little bit? Did you see how awful that fake hand was when he got his finger shot off?
Yeah, but I enjoyed that. That was kind of awesome. And what got me more was when he's sitting there, like, owie, gee whiz, my finger's gone. That when he's grabbing a towel, he grabbed the dirty, greasy one. Mm-hmm. And then part of me was like, well, that shit's going to be so infected. You're so screwed. Should have picked a cleaner towel, my man.
The original ending of the movie was that Veronica kills JD, but then still blows up the high school. And the ending of the movie is everybody getting along in a prom in heaven. And I think that would probably have been a more funny ending.
Oh, yeah.
That would have been awesome.
But the producers were like, no, ending's too bleak. You got to do something else. Because JD says the only time where different social classes can get along is in heaven. And that was the ending of the movie. That's where that actually happened. But did not get approved. So they wound up going with the ending they did. And I think the movie starts out really, really strong. But after, I think Kurt and Ram die, where Veronica starts to get, confused or upset about the whole thing, and it becomes more about JD and Veronica against each other. I think the movie slows down quite a bit, and I don't enjoy it as much as like the first 45 minutes, which I think is super, super fun. But then it just kind of goes, meh. I'd probably watch the first 45 minutes and not watch the end if I were to watch it again.
Yeah,
Neil?
it drug. It drug at the end.
Mm-hmm.
The novelty of just the ridiculousness of the kills and what they did. And in the 80s, we would have like never considered like fingerprints or DNA, which I'm sure DNA probably not, but like fingerprints, they're literally walking around and like on the glass gaver is JD's fingerprints. Like, explain that.
Yeah, exactly. We're so much more savvy about crime scenes now from all the crime shows and podcasts and all that kind of stuff. And now cell phones would change everything quite a bit too. People interacting with each other is completely different now. It's changed a lot since the 80s, for good and bad. Things have changed quite a bit.
Listen to a couple of true crime podcasts, and they always get people with cell phone data.
Yeah. Oh, totally.
Oh, you've never been there, but with your phone pinged like 15 feet from there. Are you sure you don't like drop a body chopped up into 15 pieces right there? Are you positive?
I think that's what got Jodi Arias. One of the things that got Jodi Arias is that, you went to bury your boyfriend, or you did all this stuff, and they track exactly everywhere you go. And now everything's listening to you now. Your Google Assistant and all that kind of stuff. David, what is your final thoughts about the movie?
Hey, I've said it 3 times already in this podcast. I enjoy the goddamn movie, and it's fun. You guys don't listen to me.
Well, this is where we were hoping that you'd maybe expound on it and say some different things. We talked about the
give
film.
you the chance.
I like the dark humor. I like the comedy. It was fun. The one-liners. It was just it was fun to revisit. I don't know if I'll watch it again anytime soon. I've been waiting to do this episode for a while. I've been saying Heathers, I think, for about 5 years now, and just like usual, it falls on deaf ears. So I just want to remind you that one of our top downloaded podcasts of all time was one that I suggested. So there you
go. Was that the Never Ending Story?
Yes.
Have you seen that dude lately who starred in the Never Ending Story?
Yes. He's all leathery looking, looks like a baseball mitt.
Betray you?
No, he's his hairline's way back here. He's got long brown hair, big huge beard. I guess he's like a photographic historian or something now.
Yeah.
Looks like he's seen some times.
Yeah. So that was Heathers. Next week, we're going to do Just One of the Guys, another 80s artifact that probably wouldn't be able to go again now. I have not seen it in forever, so I'll be interested to watch it. And I think High School Movie Month has been fun. We've been getting a lot of downloads, so thanks everybody for downloading Prom Night. For some reason, that seemed to hit a nerve with people. A lot of downloads for Prom Night, so that's pretty good. And 3 O'Clock High just came out today, and that got a good download. So thanks everybody for downloading. If you want to hit us up on our socials or send us an email, rvspodcast222@gmail.com. We're on Threads. We're on Instagram when we are on Facebook. And if you want to donate to the cause, hit us up on Buy Me a Coffee and look up our the Retro Video Store. I'm like, what are we? Oh, yeah, the Retro Video Store.
That's us.
Mm-hmm. So, David, any final words?
watch the movie, but I do want to give a shout out to a loyal listener named Mike, who texted me a couple titles of movies that were also shot at Ogden High School in the late 90s, early 2000s. We had a good discussion about movies this week, so thanks, Mike.
What movies did he suggest?
Well, not suggest. We just talked about, I think it's some Freddie Prinze Jr. movie and something else. There was all around that time period when all those movies kind of like Can't Hardly Wait. I think She's All That. Something all came out in the early 2000s.
Uh-huh.
And we were just bullshitting about those. So, Mike, thanks for being listener 1 through 4, one of them.
All right. Neil?
I'm just looking up our numbers on the show. Actually, wanted to make sure we were accurate here, but I haven't looked at the website in so much. Haven't looked at it quite so much. Heathers, yeah, take it or leave it. You're fine. You're fine.
Mm-hmm.
If you grew up in the 80s, enjoy yourself. If you were born any time after that, just don't, but realize we still are better as a generation than you. Okay.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
All right, everybody have a good week.
Thank you for listening to the Retro Video Store Podcast.